Hey everybody, we used to do these videos called Call Out Fridays where we would show stuff by a shop. We never mentioned the shop's name. We're not unprofessional like that. But I do like to point stuff out. It's frustrating for me as a shop owner, and we hold ourselves to a high standard here as far as quality repairs and things that leave here and making sure things are done right and taking care of the customer and being transparent and honest. Honesty to a fault, even when it's honesty people don't want to hear. Let me turn my ringer off so it doesn't, it's not going to let me do that. Okay. As I get notifications, I'm sure that screws with the audio here. So, it frustrates me as a business owner not being able to call these people out directly. A, it's a legality issue for me. They'd come after me for slander. B, some people perceive that as me trying to hurt others' business in turn to benefit my business, which I would gladly refer the other shops in the area that I know don't do screwed up stuff and don't rip people off. You ain't got to bring it here. There's plenty enough for all of us to eat, clearly. You know, all these other shops are in business, and so are we, and we're doing just fine. So we have been growing substantially every single year. No signs of that stopping as of right now. So I have no reason to butcher or batter anybody for anything. I don't work that way. You're supposed to give customers what they pay for. So we recently had a C10 pickup truck in here, 80s square body, 83, 84, something like that. Sorry. And it came in here from another shop. It'd been to multiple times repeatedly for a valve cover gasket leak, and the transmission was acting up intermittently from time to time at certain throttle inputs and fluctuations and things of that nature. And the choke light was stuck on, and it was running poor and using lots of fuel. So this truck came from a local shop. I won't say their name. They're very well established, and they do lots of classic work. I'll leave it at that. So this is something that should be right in their wheelhouse, right? So unfortunately, it was not. 3 times on the valve cover gasket, and then the owner of the shop himself told the customer, well, your valve cover is leaking because your oil pressure is fluctuating from 30 to 60 psi, and it's too much pressure and the valve cover can't hold it. Well, pump the brakes here. Some of you are probably already laughing. Valve cover gaskets are not under any pressure, especially in an older vehicle like that. Some of these newer systems have vacuum pumps and stuff on them, so there's a negative pressure in the crankcase, or there could be instances where some of these newer vehicles, the PCV systems will fail, and it'll create high pressure from crankcase pressure, nothing to do with oil pressure whatsoever, and could have valve cover gasket leaks because of vacuum or crankcase pressure situations on these newer motors. We're talking old school small block Chevy here, vented valve cover on one side and a PCV valve on the other, so we've got fresh atmospheric air coming in the one valve cover and crankcase pressure coming out of the other valve cover and being recycled by the engine. So that's not a problem here. There's not an issue of pressure inside the block creating the valve cover gasket leak. So, and the oil pressure was doing exactly what it was supposed to be doing. Idling in soft cruise, it was right around 30, 40 psi. And then when you'd get on the truck or give it some throttle or rev it when it was in park, it would jump up to 60. This thing has a fairly fresh looking small block Chevy in it. The block's still nice and black and shiny. So the engine's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. RPM higher RPM makes higher oil pressure until you hit the value of the relief spring inside of the pump, where the pump says, okay, we don't make any more pressure than that. This is our hard limit. So there's a spring in the pump that when it reaches a certain pressure, that spring opens and it bypasses the oil and it only creates so much oil pressure. So for the owner of the shop to say that's pretty hilarious. Sorry. It's just making an excuse for why they couldn't repair it. So when we got it in here, I sicked my 19-year-old tech, Tyler, on it, just to make this even funnier. As far as tech experience level goes, it didn't take a lot. So I told Tyler right off bat, so what you're going to find on that driver's side valve cover, I guarantee, based on how horrible it was leaking. Literally, the front cross member for the engine cradle was full of oil. It was floating in there. The whole side of the block and the sheet metal spark plug heat shield that goes around the plugs and the plug wires had standing oil on it. It was a fire hazard. It was not safe to drive this vehicle, and they released this vehicle leaking oil like that, making excuses for why the repairs that they charged the customer money for didn't work. They had used a really sloppy, cheap piece of shit rubber valve cover gasket that was really flimsy, which is whatever. I was assuming I was going to find a cork gasket on there, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of cork personally. But the problem is on old school small block Chevys, pre-center bolt valve cover, the top of the cylinder head where the valve cover gasket rides is round like my finger. Center bolt valve cover motors is flat. And they did that intentionally so the valve cover gasket wouldn't do exactly what I'm getting ready to explain to you. So when the gasket sits on top of that channel, if you over tighten that valve cover, the gasket will want to roll one way or the other off of that cylinder head surface the valve cover gasket goes on. So they glued the valve cover gaskets on with what looks like Wright stuff or some sort of black silicone. It looks like Wright stuff. It's like a dark gray black. It's not a bright glossy black like ultra black RTV. So they at least used a good silicone. They glued the gasket on there, did not wait for it to set up, threw the valve cover back on and over tightened it, and the gasket did exactly that. Between the corner of the valve cover on the front by the AC compressor and the bolt, it popped the gasket inside, and it was just urinating oil down all over the exhaust and the side of the motor right there and all over the bottom of the truck. So we put a Cometic neoprene gasket in there, which has a steel metal core in it. So the gasket's rectangular shaped, and that's all it is. That gasket can't physically pop in or out. It's got a square metal core in it that makes it rigid, and then it has the neoprene molded around it. And we fixed the valve cover gasket first try, no problems. And then the choke issue is pretty simple. I got that fixed, and then I adjusted the throttle valve cable. Had a lot of slack in it. It took until about quarter throttle before the throttle valve cable did anything. If anyone knows anything about 700 R4 transmission, all the line pressures and shift strategies are based on that throttle valve cable. So if the throttle valve cable is not being detented or pulled enough, line pressure is low and the shift points are wonky. And on the 2-3 shift, it was slipping. So we fixed the TV cable, and I took the vehicle out and drove it. TV cable adjustment was perfect. Certain throttle inputs, it still slips a little bit. I made the customer aware, hey, eventually you're going to need a trans. Damage has already been done. At wide open throttle, when line pressure's high, though, the clutch pack holds. And then cruising really soft around town, it does just fine. So we made that problem a lot better. We got the choke light resolved and got the thing running good. And we fixed the valve cover gasket leak that the facility that should be competent by the amount of classic cars sitting in their parking lot was not competent in repairing. And then instead of admitting that and refunding the customer their money or not charging them, they just blamed the vehicle and made up excuses for the customer. So that's my all-inclusive pictures here in this post of the vehicle in question. A very nice C10. It's in very good shape. Kind of multicolored primer and stuff, a little project truck, so it doesn't present very pretty, but it is a very nice truck. Very nice to drive. It was no rocket ship by any means. It ran very well and smooth. It was just a really nice truck. It rode like a cloud, drove like a cloud, steered nice. It sounded really good, and it was a perfect amount of, you could hear it, but it was nice and quiet. Really cool truck, man. I really enjoy working on stuff like that. So, that's what we got going on here. This was a last week project. I'm just now getting a chance to post a video and stuff about it now. I got some free time since Jeffrey's not here and I'm stuck in the office. So, yeah, that's my little Monday call out there. Incompetence on something as simple as a valve cover gasket. And in the past, I've had issues with this exact same shop, other problems. Years ago, I worked for another shop in Marysville, and we had a car come in, a Cadillac, that this shop also charged that customer, put factory GM transmission cooler lines on. They kept leaking, so the customer brought the vehicle to us for a second opinion. I pulled the customer out in the shop and showed him the rubber hose. His transmission cooler lines had been cut out and rubber hose put in and clamped. And then it flared the ends of the metal tube or double clamp them or anything. It was pissing trans fluid everywhere. And the shop did make it right once called out. So the customer went back to there and said, hey, look, this other shop took pictures. Here's all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. And he did order the factory GM cooler lines for it, or some kind of cooler line that was a pre-made cooler line, and actually installed those on the vehicle. So he did make it right, but he tried to not to at first. So like I said, I wish I could tell everybody who these people are. I drop little hints and hope people figure it out themselves. But I can't say anything based on legalities, and I don't want anybody thinking I'm out here trying to poach somebody, because I'm not. I would prefer everybody just get their shit together and run a quality business and take care of people, instead of trying to do stuff like this to people, making excuses and reasons. So we've been guilty of making mistakes ourselves. No one's perfect. What separates the good shops from the bad shops, in my opinion, is how you handle it. So, I'm not the one physically touching cars every day. I'm also not perfect. I make mistakes. But, human error happens. Errors in judgment happen. We had one the other day. My guy looked through the wheel on a car and thought it needed brakes, and it was a dumb mistake. He pulled the wheels and tires off to put new tires on it. Should have looked at the brakes then. But when he was doing his multi-point run around before he started on what the vehicle was here for, he peeked in through the wheel with a flashlight, and the shadow got him. He thought it needed rear brakes. We caught that it didn't need rear brakes. We called the customer and said, "Hey, our mistake. Tech was wrong. You don't need rear pads and rotors. You're still actually really good. 8 millimeters, or was it 7 millimeters." So, but tech just got caught, made a mistake. So, no ill will there, nothing like that. It was just a simple, honest mistake on my tech's part, and we caught it, and he apologized, and in the hustle and bustle of everything and trying to do his job, and I called the customer and we made it right. So that's just, those things happen. We've put things together and they've leaked, and we've fixed them, and we've broken parts when we were working on cars and bought the parts and paid for them. And I just sold a car to a lady today, and it's been sitting around here for a few weeks for sale. And she gets in it and drives it, and she says, "Hey, something's up." The steering wheel starts shaking while I was driving it. She brings it up here and looks at it. Unfortunately, she's driving it back to Michigan. The front left caliper hose collapsed on her. So the front left brake was hanging up, and it was getting hot, and it was causing a vibration. We looked at it. She's going back to Michigan 2.5 hours and didn't have time. We don't have time today. I can't get parts here, things of that nature. She's going home tonight. Her sister lives here, and I gave her $300 back on the car to help pay for the repairs when she gets home. So, it's all about how you handle it. That's what separates us, the men from the boys, in my opinion. So there's my call out Monday. Guys got to step it up. Can't even do a valve cover gasket. So, or get a choke light turned off, or adjust the throttle valve cable correctly. So we got the customer fixed up. Hopefully he's happy. Everything's good there. And hopefully we'll see him again. I like his beautiful truck. So I look forward to hopefully him getting it painted up and things like that. The interior is really pretty and everything. It looks like a nice little project. So that's my deal there. I'm going to be making a Monday night post here pretty soon and blasting that all over the interweb. So, and we're getting ready to go to a customer's house and pick up a Jimmy tonight. So for one of my wife's friends, they got a Jimmy that it's a long story. So I'll ramble forever and make this video 30 minutes long. So it's already 12 minutes long. So we'll see. Comment below if you watched the whole video and let me know. So I appreciate you guys. Like I said 1,400 times before, I'm going to try to be a lot more active on here. I really want to be a lot more active on here. Social media in general, especially our Facebook account. I've kind of just been busy, and it's one of them things that's not on the top of my mind. The day-to-day around here is, and I need to prioritize making sure I keep a social media presence and awareness of what we do and the quality of the work we do around here, and us and the team, and show appreciation for all you guys as well. So I appreciate everybody's business and support once again. I love all you guys like family. NNF Performance stands for Knobs and Family. So this isn't possible without you guys. I could work as hard as I want to. If you guys don't give me the business, I can't do anything about it. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good Monday night. Hope you had a great weekend. Hopefully you're having a good 2025 so far. And I'll see you guys soon, I'm sure. Thanks.